Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday evening Ask the Doc call. My name is Lynn Matthews, and it is always such a pleasure and a privilege to be here sharing with you this revolutionary way of approaching health and vitality. And you just got to tour the facility where all of this is made, which is really exciting. I've had the opportunity to go there several times. If you are ever in Utah, everyone is welcome to go there. For most of the past century or more, we've looked at health or we've approached health looking at and trying to mitigate symptoms. It's kind of like if you have a bush, it's working on all the leaves. We've never really been able to address the root. And redox is changing all of that. It's really changing the paradigm of wellness. If this is a new term for you, you are in great company. It was to all of us until someone like your friend brought this to us. But it is a most amazing field of science. Redox is the energy that powers all life. Nothing happens in my body, your body, even your pet's bodies without a redox reaction. They are the communication system and the communication network within the body to not only protect your healthy cells, but to help detect and repair any damage literally anywhere in your body. So tonight we're going to explore not only what is redox, but why is it so profound and why should any of us care about this for our own selves? People look at this for a number of different reasons, and you might recognize yourself in here for a couple of these reasons. One of them is because they have a health challenge. Maybe you're dealing with some health challenges. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, a loved one who has a health challenge, and you're trying to get educated about this to see if this might be the missing link. Some of you might be here because you like to be proactive with your health, right? Kind of stop things before they can ever get a label from your doctor. And some of you might be here because you have heard that there is some kind of athletic benefit to this with recovery and endurance and mental focus. And even though we have professional athletes on this, world class, and even Olympic athletes on this, we all just saw 2 weeks of the Olympics. You don't have to be an athlete competing at that level to benefit from the athletic benefits that we have. I love to hike and bike, and I love the recovery aspect of this and the energy that I have when I'm doing those activities. So whether you like to walk or run or just want energy at the end of your day, this is an aspect that Dr. Hoffman's going to talk about as well tonight. A fourth reason that people look at this is for the anti-aging benefits. We are all 24 hours older today than we were yesterday at this time. But what if there was a way to turn back the clock? Not only on the physical signs of aging that we see when we look in the mirror as we move through life, but even on the inside. I love what Dr. Hoffman shares with us every week, and that's, the wrinkles on the outside are simply a reflection of the wrinkles and the oxidative stress happening on the inside to our cells, to our tissues, to our organs. So what if we could do something about that? And then the other reason that I'm going to mention tonight, but unfortunately we don't have time on Tuesday nights to go into this, is people often, once they have had an experience, once they understand how profound this is, they often want to share it with friends, family members, because you have a cutting edge technology that literally helps every human being on the planet, every pet on the planet. And it's an opportunity to make an impact beyond ourselves by linking arms with like-minded individuals and being part of this volunteer army that is out there educating people. So if that is something, sometimes people just want to bring it to their families. Sometimes people have a bigger vision. So if that's something that resonates with you, or once you have seen what this does and what it is, if that's something of interest, let the person know who invited you, because on Saturday mornings, Dr. Hoffman's colleague, Dr. Silverman, will have on the same Zoom with the same password, he'll spend about a half hour at 10:30 East Coast time, giving you some tips and things on how to use this, what to look for when you're doing it. But at the top of the hour, he will switch over and we'll talk about what it is like to be part of this as a business. So if that's of interest to you, just know that that's on Saturday. And otherwise, I am always thrilled to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Carolyn Hoffman. We have known each other because of this business. Had we not been involved with this, I don't know that our paths would have crossed. And it's just become a wonderful relationship. We've been doing this now for years on Tuesday nights because we're both so passionate that people really understand what this is. And Dr. Hoffman is probably, in my opinion, one of the most eloquent speakers on this. She can take a topic that can be very scientific and put it into terms and analogies that all of us can understand. She is a board certified traditional naturopath. She's been working in that field for over 23 years. And she's also a member of the medical professional board for this company. That's a volunteer position. But what I love about that is it brings to the table not only her incredible background in natural medicine and healing, but also she has such insights into this technology very specifically. So I'm going to turn this over to her, but just know as she's going through the presentation, if you have any questions that you would like her to answer, that is really one of the biggest reasons we do these Zooms. Just put them in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, we will go back and answer your questions. So Carolyn, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. We do enjoy sharing this with you. And my goal is to impart to you the reason why I think this just makes common sense for everyone, whether you've got a health issue and that's what's motivating you to be here because you're trying to find out how to get to the root of that challenge and maybe give up some medication, or whether you're just, as Lynn said, someone who falls into any one of those other categories. But to me, the most important one is may we never know what we prevent by being proactive with our health. And this is going to speak to the very foundation of what health is and why we experience anything other than health when it gets out of balance. So I'm going to share my screen with you and let's talk about what I do think of very much as a wellness revolution, because this is for me the essence of how, as an individual, you get to actually put yourself in the driver's seat of your own health, regardless of whatever age you are, regardless of whatever challenge or goal you're looking for. It's because this is so foundational to the difference between living a healthy life or why we experience changes over time, because it's all part of this whole inbuilt kind of obsolescence that is happening much earlier than we might imagine. So I want to just raise this question, what does wellness mean to you? I think it can mean all sorts of things to different people, depending upon where you're sitting in your current space of life. Is your health goal number one just to be pain-free? That no medications, maybe no endless doctor's visits. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Maybe it's to sustain just health and performance, as we mentioned, and to be preventative in that anti-aging space. I'd love to know in the chat bar if you've got something that, is your particular idea about wellness. But health goals, regardless of whatever they are, all come down to how much energy every single cell has to perform, maintaining, keeping us healthy, and addressing anything that's beginning to shift just as a process of being alive. This is not a static process from day to day. We are, everything under the surface is altering minute by minute, second by second. Just breathing creates more oxygen, and that actually causes more oxidative stress, so we need oxygen, but then there's the other side of the coin. So we want to know that our cells are really firing on all signals at all times to make sure that it can spot whenever there's a problem and actually solve it. In other words, keep us healthy. I think we all know that it takes much more of an effort to keep fit, right? To stay fit. We all know when we're out of balance, trying to get back into that space is an awful lot harder than it is just to maintain it. So if you're here tonight and you're tired of maybe trying everything and nothing has worked, I can empathize with that. I've had so many clients who feel the same. And it is a frustrating space to be in. As a practitioner, I was always frustrated that I could never really guarantee that I could really find a supplement that would solve all sorts of things rather than very specific things. And know that I could see improvements for those clients who were, like me, frustrated with not being able to reach particular goals. Sometimes it's just lack of knowledge that we haven't hit on what we need to know about our challenge. Sometimes we feel like trying to get healthy is just a really over-consuming time effort. We do feel like we've tried lots of things. Sometimes that we feel it's very expensive to reach those challenges. And sometimes it's just how do we find that one solution that is the kind of key to moving us into a good space. Now, energy, as I said, is at the center of health and for living as a whole. And as we actually examine live blood cells, like we have here on the screen, photos of those, we can see healthy blood reflects on that left-hand side abundant energy. You'll notice all of those little cells are separate and distinct. They're all carrying oxygen molecules with them. The ones on the right are unoxygenated. It's only the first one in that long line that actually has oxygen. And they're very unenergetic. In other words, we can, if we're living a life with one blood or the other inside us, we're going to understand what that feels like as we get stagnant blood. So we're dialing down to all of the cells that make up us, and that is about 70 to 100 trillion cells filled with salt water, because that's what is the water of life. So when our cells are really healthy, they are actually fully charged, just like batteries, because they're pumping out power at a massive rate, and they've got lots of energy to do everything that's necessary. So we're going to live our life to our fullest. Our body's going to be able to detect when there's a problem. It's going to be able to repair and heal us pretty fast. Our cell phones and our cars may still function without a fully charged battery, but we really don't. We limp along, but we're not actually functioning in the way that we should do, even if you're not really conscious of the fact that lots of things are not really occurring. So we want to be a fully charged human being at every single cell. And if we can imagine waking up exhausted, that's a real sign that those cells are not fully charged. Right? They weren't really able to recover when we slept. And so simple tasks are constantly, going to challenge us, and we're going to notice depleted cellular energy because we're going to feel chronically exhausted. We might notice that we just don't recover as fast as we used to, or heaven forbid, things have really got awry and we actually have got some dis-ease or sickness. Now, people spend hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, on different supplements, and yet they still can't always say that they really feel vibrantly healthy. Now, just as with our food, it's not the key to what we eat, but it's actually what we absorb. And so that is a challenge with so many supplements that even if they're good, there's a lot of things that go wrong with time and age that isn't necessarily supported by cellular energy. And so we don't always absorb the things that we eat. We don't always absorb all of those supplements. And so there's a real key to that as to why that doesn't happen. Just like constructing a house, when we build the blueprint of healthy cells, they require the materials and they require the labor to make that happen. So what happens if the workers don't turn up, but we've delivered all the materials to the job site? Well, we know, nothing much is going to occur. We're not going to get that house that we're hoping for or that project that we're looking to complete. Well, healthy cells are literally no different. And we'll talk about those two sides of the coin. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This is what plays that critical role in generating energy to make things happen. This involves that saline that I mentioned with those 70 to 100 trillion cells, or the salt water. Now, we all know we're made of salt water. We may not think about it, right? But if we sweat and we taste the sweat, we taste salty. If we cry, we know our tears are salty as well. And that's because we are made up of saline. And so for chemicals reactions to happen, the mitochondria has to have lots of saline, and it produces and uses that saline to break it up and produce the ATP, the fancy word for energy in our cells. So that's where the labor is going to come from. Now, with the necessary food nutrients, which can be from our diet or our supplements, we've got the sugar that's available to be burnt to help produce the energy. And if the cells are really charged with energy, they're going to be giving us that oxygen that goes with the sugar to continue to burn and produce more ATP. So who gives it the instructions with what to do with that energy? Like how does the body decide where to send all this pent-up energy that needs to go out to the cells to make instructions and things happen? Well, that is where the redox signaling comes in. In the process of making redox signaling, we produce these signaling messengers, which are reductants and oxidants along from that ATP production. They're the things that actually give the body instructions, and they move the energy around, and they kind of switch on and off switches everywhere in the body to make sure that everything is moving and is alive and is functioning properly. I always tend to think of what it must look like to have a massive amount of machinery, maybe in the bottom of a huge ship or a cruise liner, right? There's all sorts of machines pumping out energy, and all of that needs to be working at all times for that ship or that cruise liner to function. Our body is exactly the same. There are trillions and trillions of instructions and movements happening for us to stay healthy and to address any problems that occur. Now, redox reactions are at the very core of life on Earth. You might have actually heard Lynn mention the redox is not only in human beings, we're making it as we speak, but it's in pets and plants. In other words, we're all living organisms, and we're driven by these redox signaling molecules. But Albert Szent-Györgyi actually said that life really comes down to being nothing but an electron, in other words, a ball of energy, looking for a place to rest. In other words, these fancy little molecules are fueled up with energy, and they're trying to work out where they should give the energy and how they should turn on and off appropriate switches to make sure that we stay ultimately healthy. Now, mitochondria, as I said, makes up the ATP and these redox signaling molecules. The reductants make the first part of redox, and oxidants make the second part. That's how science has added them together to be the field of redox biology and medicine. I mentioned that it uses the saline. Well, what's saline made up of? It's made up of salt and water, which when we break it down chemically, makes these 4 units on the left-hand side of the screen: the sodium and the chloride and the hydrogen and oxygen. And really, rather like a fancy game of Scrabble, the body's very smart. It rapidly reorganizes and assembles and disassembles these components of the saline to make multiple redox signaling molecules to trigger all the things that need to happen for us to be alive. On the bottom of the screen, you've got some examples of some of those redox signaling molecules that come from those 4 ingredients. The top one, hydrogen peroxide, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with. Most people have one of these brown bottles in their bathroom sink, right? For pouring on a cut, because it makes it bubble up and it kills the bacteria associated with inflammation. Right, that is a redox signaling molecule. It's extremely well used over a long, long period of time, not only for us to put on wounds, but it's also part of the industrial cleaning environment. It uses a lot of hydrogen peroxide because it kills bacteria. So what we can learn from that is that redox signaling molecules are naturally antibacterial. So they benefit and help us keep under control bad bacteria. The redox evolution, if you haven't heard about redox, which most people haven't, I hadn't heard much about it at all, even by the time I came to learn about this really and truthfully in 2017. If your doctor was educated pre-2008, they will acknowledge that they really had no education on redox biology. But it's really interesting that the field of it starts way back in the 1800s, when they recognized that there were these fast-moving little molecules that they really couldn't grasp because they didn't have the scientific technology, but they knew that even if they couldn't understand them fully, they knew that they were kind of these fast-moving shapeshifters. We come to 2016, And here we have a study that's published that actually talks about why I say this makes sense for all of us. Because at the bottom of the screen there, you'll see science is telling us alterations in redox signaling are observed in aging. So that's going to change as we get older. But they also know that they are essential to health. There's a real big clue, right? If they're essential to health, we want to make sure that we have lots of them. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that science knows that any sustained deviation, in other words, being out of redox balance for a long period of time, results in disease. So when I saw that, it really just confirmed what I knew about why I'd seen the benefits of using this product since 2017. I was like, wow, that makes common sense, right? It's going to change with age. It's necessary and essential if I want to be healthy. And if I'm out of balance for a long time, I'm going to allow diseases to fester within me. And of course, I don't want that. So that's why I think of this as something that everybody should be adding to their lifestyle. Now, again, you may not know much about redox, but redox has been talked about in Paris, France, as a world congress for over 22 years. Universities all over the world, departments are studying this field of redox biology because redox is in every single mitochondria, hundreds, if not thousands, depending upon where they're located in the human cell. So they are literally involved in why we stay healthy, and as science tells you, why we don't stay healthy. And science is trying to work out, how to make a drug out of this thing. But to this date, there are no redox-based drugs. But there is an enormous amount of science out there to show us all the connections between redox and health and redox and dis-ease. So if you're one of those people that likes to go and look at that kind of thing, have at it. The NIH has thousands and hundreds of thousands of studies. But having said that, I will tell you, I don't think it really makes any difference how many scientific studies you read. None of them are actually going to show you the power of this technology beyond using it yourself, right? That's the most important thing. Find out what happens for you. Now, the redox evolution may have spread over many, many decades, but the intersection of why we're here today talking about something that can put us in the driver's seat of our own health comes in 2007. We're going to talk about this in a little bit more depth with Lynn at the end, but that inability to not be able to kind of identify these quickly moving molecules back in the 1800s took this huge jump, and Verdis Norton is really the pivot point. 2007, he came at an intersection of working with a company that had been studying these exact molecules for 10 years. They were trying to take them on a drug route, and he was invited to, in a consulting role, to help see if he could raise extra money to keep them in that field. The long and short of it was that he couldn't. However, he recognized the benefit of this product. These fast-moving molecules have been made in little machines for decades, which is why everybody studies them so well. But these fast-moving molecules would be gone in about 10 minutes. He got to experience it because he drank from one of those machines and he felt healthier. When the financial role wasn't going to work out, he was smart enough to know that this company had something very unique with 10 years of research and patents already under their belt. And he put together an investment group and a new group of PhD scientists. And he said, let's do what science says we can't do. What science said was impossible was to stabilize outside the human body something as bioactive as a redox signaling molecule in a stabilized form that someone could use that wasn't already evaporated within 10 minutes. They did the unexpected and the impossible, and they found out what it was and how to stabilize it. And so to the market now, suddenly we have this whole new way to do something different and a whole new area that no one's ever been in before. We have these redox signaling molecules being made. And we'll talk about about that intersection that's really powerful as to why it became something that you and I can use and not something in a science study field. Here is the FDA registered facility in Utah. This is where the world's supply of redox signaling takes place. If you came on before we started the call, you actually saw some of the tour around this facility and the stages that this product goes through. This is not a material-based product. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're used to using things that come in capsules and pills, right? There's all sorts of materials in there, things that you can tangibly measure. And there's a little list on the back of what they would be. And you can always read those lists on the label. What's in there? We're not about materials. Why? Because we start with salt and water, but we're doing what the cells do. We're transforming through our patented process and breaking those molecules apart, reorganizing them into these chemical energy bombs, basically, and stabilizing them there in a bottle for us to make use of. This is where the world's supply is made. And from here, it goes direct to our 19 distribution centers around the world. And from there, direct to the front door of every customer using this product. We provide our 30-day money-back guarantee. And when you work with the person that's invited you to this call, you get our expertise of being the only group of people in the world for the last 14 years working in this field of redox biology. So we're going to be able to give you the advice that we've learned over time about how to use this. This is a very special technology, and it doesn't, we don't use it in the way that everybody tends to think of, just pop a couple of pills and, you know, it's a very consistent thing. It's all about your unique identity. And so we're going to help you actually find how to experience the best result for you, which might be different from someone else. We have 7 patents and about 1,000 trade secrets. And as the video showed you from FDA regulations, we meet those standards. So every 4th batch is tested independently by outside sources. So these laboratories in Spain and Germany verify for every user that what we're using and what we're consuming and buying is not salt water. It's actually stabilized, redox certified molecules. So that's a guarantee of what you're purchasing as being real. We meet FDA, GMP, halal, kosher, NSF compliance, and also all of the WADA requirements so that we have multiple athletes in the Olympic field using this product. So that's our kind of guarantee that we're going to get what we are hoping we're purchasing. What do redox signaling molecules do? They do everything that's essential for us to stay healthy. They detect damaged cells. They protect healthy lifestyle of a normal cell. They decide whether something needs to be repaired or whether a cell is old and needs to be deleted and replaced with a healthy one, whether it's sick and it needs to be deleted, or whether it's just its time, its age, and then it's time to be replaced with a nice new healthy cell. It's what we understand of healing. It maintains our genetic expression, and that is the language of the DNA of the human being. It is also make sure that we have a very robust adaptive response, innate immune system. That's like a long word. What that means is it's like the antennae for the human body is always out there kind of circling around and saying, is there a bacteria that we're about to come in contact with? Is there a virus? Is there environmental toxin? What is a threat to me as a human being, and how does the body need to mount a defense system to keep us healthy? Now, if you're someone who is always susceptible to viruses and bacteria and things around you, then your innate immune system is not as tuned up as it needs to be, which is already a sign that your redox signaling is not as strong and robust as it should be. We put a lot of research money into helping ourselves to learn about our technology, because nobody else is out there. There's no other authorities in this field, because we are the only people who've done what we've done, and we're still the only people in this field. And one of these really amazing studies that took place at Torrent Labs, which are genetic specialists, was an 8-week double-blind placebo-controlled study. They used healthy 35-year-olds, but it's interesting that when they checked out their genetic expression through very expensive equipment and testing before they started using ASEA Redox, their genetics had already started down-regulating, and we'll talk about why that happens. But after 8 weeks on 8 ounces a day, 100% of that group drinking the ASEA Redox had a 20 to 31% sustained and beneficial improvement in 5 genetic pathways. The placebo group got plain saline, and it's really interesting to notice the opposite end, literally nothing changed. The body didn't respond even if it thought it was getting something beneficial. But I want you just to look at what are those genetic signaling pathways? What do they mean for us? Because to me, they're like the bullseye of making sure that all the key things are in place to stay healthy. Improving our immune signaling system, helping to maintain cardiovascular health with vein elasticity, improving gut health and digestive enzyme production, modulating hormones, balancing our vitality and our wellness, supporting our body's ability to respond to external stresses, and maintaining a healthy response to inflammatory markers through exercise. Physical exercise, don't misinterpret that. That's not about being an athlete, right? That's not about whether you get on a bike and ride or whether you do any kind of athletics. It's just simply being alive, right? Moving is exercise, and we create inflammation as a result of it. So we want all of those to be really strong. Gene signaling pathways are like opening a door. Then they're really like this cascade, this domino sequence that goes on all over the body, triggering on and off things that need to happen for us to stay healthy. So this inflammatory signaling pathway is an example of that. There are like 15 other pathways that are opened up when we upregulate and improve that one pathway. Have a look at what's in blue, because that's really all that matters, not the fancy names. Because if those things that are related in blue to those pathways are strong, then your genetics are in a good place. But if you've got some issues with any of those things that you can see there, then you know that those pathways are already down-regulated and are not as optimal as they need to be. Additional studies that are done out of Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which are really important because in our safety studies, one of the things we know is that this is 100% non-toxic. You can't be allergic to it because as you speak, like pets and plants, we're making redox signaling molecules, otherwise we wouldn't be alive. And we're not adding something that is, even natural, we're adding something that is native back into the body. We're bio-replenishing something that already exists. And I think one of the really, really important things is if you're on the call today and you're on medication, there is no drug interaction with this. I can't say that about any other nutritional product. It's just not possible, because even if a product is good, if it's got materials in there that can impact and interfere with medication, then there's plenty that I can't use with things. So that's beautiful, because we're going to ask you just to stay on your medication, just add this in and track the changes. We increase the effectiveness of our own internal master antioxidant, glutathione, by 800%. That's enormous, right? To be able to turn on, key code what we're producing in every cell, the most powerful antioxidant that we have, much more so than anything we might consume and eat. That is where health also is pivotal. 82 known diseases are tied to a lack of glutathione, and we know that the older we get and the sicker we are, the less we have. There are a number of other metrics there that are important, but improving apoptosis, in other words, helping cells know and hear when they should die off if they're sick or they're old, is important, because there is a term called zombie cells now. In other words, old cells that don't hear the call, right? That it's their turn to move on, to shuffle off this mortal coil, so to speak, and be replaced by a nice new healthy cell. But what they do is they actually cause more havoc. They cause more inflammation, and they cause more damage and disease. And this is a whole field called senolytics. One of the more recent studies that came out at the end of last year was it shows that we increase our production of NRF2, those are our internal antioxidants, by 60%. And with the gel, we actually increase the glutathione percent by 40 to 55%. So some amazing things there. You can go to discoverredox.com and have a look at those study information for yourself. So why do we age? Well, when we're younger, people recover faster, they heal quicker, and they have less disease. And we talked about the fact that, this starts because things shift in this redox production, but really the science classifies this as inflammaging. In other words, inflammation with aging. And I mentioned that's because of those zombie cells that take place. Redox signaling literally controls inflammation, but science has discovered that we lose these essential molecules, these messengers, at 1% per year from puberty. Not our 30s or our 40s or our 50s but our teens. That's when that clock has already started ticking. We might not see it and feel it until we're maybe in our 30s or 40s, or perhaps later, but it's already happening. And so it's going on a daily basis. So science now, because of this discovery, enables us to control that loss with an ultimate biohack. Right, being able to rebuild our native redox signaling molecules, to amplify our signaling, to help us feel and look the way we did when we were 10 or even maybe 20 years younger than we currently are. Or if you're really smart, you'll start when you're in your 20s, right, before you notice that oxidation and that destruction already having happened. And that's really one of the most powerful piece. My kids all started in their 20s, and my eldest daughter is 30, and she'll say, she is much healthier than her peers because she's using redox on a regular basis, and she doesn't get sick like they do. Lynn mentioned one of the categories is athletics. Now, obviously, there's a lot of interest in the Olympics because it's just finished. A lot of those Olympians are taking a serum, even if they're not going to tell you, because it gives them the edge, right? But we don't have to be one of them. We don't have to be a weekend warrior. We simply need to have energy to live our life at our peak. And so I want you to think about the studies show the reason why they use it, which can translate for us, is because they get a 29% increase in endurance and faster recovery. So let's look at what does that mean for us in our daily life? Faster recovery, more endurance, more energy. Maybe it means we can play pickleball on the weekend when perhaps we've kind of felt spent by Friday and just don't have any extra energy to do those things. Maybe we can pick up and do skiing again that we didn't used to be able to. We've given up for the last 4 or 5 years. Maybe it's even just running around with your grandchildren who make you realize it's why you should have them in your 20s and not when you're 50 and 60 or 70, right? Because they have a lot more abundant energy. But sharper mental focus, that whole thing will play out in our life just as it does for these athletes. If you want to know more about who's using it, and there's a huge repertoire of people, take a look at discoverredox.com on the intro page. Scroll down and look for Sean Burke, and you can click there and it'll take you to everybody else. So how do you know how quickly this is going to work? If we take the liquid, you're unlikely to feel something that quickly. It might take you a week, it might take you a month before your body says, this is what I've done with those extra molecules and that extra energy. But here's what I want you to do. We have a gel technology that, although it's an anti-aging product, this is how I chose to validate it, because there is a way to kind of feel, for most people, 9 out of 10, probably, what's happening in under 10 minutes. Now, if you've got something that hurts, I'm excited because you're the perfect candidate for this. If you haven't, then speak to the person that's showing you this and ask them to show you with the strength test, surely, how quickly the body can respond to additional communication. But I took this into my office because I had seen that if the things that hurt, I can really impact things quickly and help people get a sense of what these molecules can mean for them. So if you have something that hurts, do what I was doing with all of my clients. Rate that level of discomfort on a 1 through 10. 10. Obviously 10 is pretty severe. If it's not something that hurts, it's range of motion, you know, see how much you can flex or bend or get up and down stairs, whatever your challenge is, test it out. Work out where you are on that. Take photos of how much you can bend things. Then take the gel and shake it. It is the same as the liquid that we drink, except it has silica clay in it. You'll see that it's totally clear. And what I want you to do is, once you've established how much something hurts or what it will or won't do in terms of movement, apply the gel. Put a decent amount on it, not just a tiny bit, probably a good raspberry amount. You'll see it's totally clear. Apply it 3 times in 5 minutes, wait 5 minutes, and then go check it out again and see. Judge for yourself. Now, don't just do it on yourself. Put it on a whole bunch of friends, because everybody's going to have a different experience. But I want you to get a sense of the fact that it's not about one specific thing. It's about the fact that what brings us in common here is that everything has a cell that's dysfunctional if we've got a problem. I want to show you the outcomes I saw as I was validating and testing, right? I asked my clients, like, I'm trying out a new product. Would you just give me some feedback? And we did this. We benchmarked everybody. Now, hip replacements went from an 8 to a 0 in 2 minutes. That's pretty astounding, because this is not an analgesic, right? This is kickstarting your natural innate redox signal and communication within your cells where they've stalled out, and we're kind of fire hosing the problem where it needs more support. We had things like congested sinuses that moved from a 7 to a 3 in the 10-minute test. Head discomfort with light sensitivity, we're often familiar with that, you know. 7 to a 4, rib displacement, 6 to a 2. I had a friend who had she'd injured her foot, had some breaks in the foot, and had 5 years without being able to wear shoes and socks, and had PT for that period of time because she had neuropathy and neuralgia. We got her to try that, and she had a 10-hour respite from that level of discomfort. By continually using it over a period of time, her body was able to kickstart the healing that it has struggled with for 5 years, and she has now spent the last 6 years being able to walk in normal shoes, wear socks, and get rid of those the boot that she had and the crutches that she had for all of that time. So what I want to show you is, like, there's a whole range of responses there, and it's not about saying that everything's going to go away in that 10 minutes. But what I want you to know is that if you can try this on lots of people and look at all those responses, you're going to get a sense of how quickly the body's taking those additional supports and doing something with it, which will then make you realize that this is going to be working in the same way within you. Fixing the cell. These are just examples of the fact that we are so used to thinking about, I have a breathing problem like my husband, can it help that? Or I've got an autoimmune issue that I've had for 30 years, can it help that? I've got a skin issue, can it help that? I'm losing wads of my hair and my hormones are all over the place and my doctor won't help me resolve this, can it help that? Or, I've got a mobility problem and I'd love to go back to skydiving in my 70s like I always was doing, but I don't have the energy and I've got a trouble with my foot nowadays. All of these are examples of, people I've helped, right, with these challenges, who have been able to say, like my husband with his breathing, that in 2 weeks, a 22-year challenge with not being able to breathe and exercise changed entirely. Right? That makes you stand up and go, hang on, why? How come, right? How come one thing can make such a shift? Right? How can somebody go from having 3 autoimmune challenges in 30 years to being 90% better in 30 days? How can somebody have a skin challenge for many years and that change? How can someone's hair grow back? All of those things, it's really all down to the fact that what we're doing is helping the body work out how to fix the cell that's out of balance, because the body knows how to heal. It just doesn't have the support it needs to. So if you're curious about our redox, our pure redox-based technologies, this is our development since 2009 when we came to market. This is the powerhouse. This is non-targeted. In other words, every cell is going to jump up and say, thank you for re-empowering me to be a stronger, healthier, more energetic cell that can go do what I need to do to keep you healthy. We bio-replenish on a daily basis. We refill that glass. The Renew 28 is a 5-year project. This is a unique technology. Redox molecules want to go to work, right? And so it took them 5 years to find, how can you embrace this liquid that we were all spraying over our bodies and getting benefit with, and actually put it in something that can now go on your skin. It took them 5 years to discover a silica that doesn't activate the molecules until it's on us. It's actually in contact, but it's working that fast. The Renew 28 is twice as concentrated into this advanced serum for fine lines and wrinkles, and dimethicone was the carrier base for that. Our most recent one has been a 3-year project to find a specific type of bentonite that doesn't activate the redox until it's on the skin. You'll love it for the anti-aging. You know, it really tightens the skin. It pulls all the junk out the pores, makes you bright and your skin look incredible. But in fact, our athletes are using it to power redox into tired muscles that need to recover quicker. So kind of off-label use, so to speak. But this is all pure redox. Scientifically, we're exploring targeted redox reactions within cell membranes, and now we're using the bioactive ingredients within organic whole foods components. We go through a lot of science to meet redox principles before things get chosen to put together. But our powders, which will come in these cute little packages that you can take with you and pop into water, are targeted for redox energy within the skin, in the cells, are targeted for focused mind and memory and attention, faster response time in the mind, are targeted for anxiety, overwhelm, depression, all of those kinds of things in the mood. Those can be hot, they can be warm, they can be cold, they can be mixed together or singly, and you can do them 3 times a day. And our fun little purple one here is a new approach to collagen. It is the building blocks, the amino acids in the vegan form that allow the body to build all types of collagen, as opposed to animal-based 1 and 3, 2, 3, which is mostly the only collagen models on the market. We support the redox function of aging within the skin with this as our published science basis for our skincare. And then we add and support targeted organic, whole food, non-GMO products to go with the redox energy for the resources that we don't have in our food any longer. The only one that's not vegan is omega, because we did choose to get that from fish. So how are you going to track what happens with this? Well, what you want to do is to benchmark everything about your health, because the molecules are going to go where they want to. They're going to go all over the body, and the body's going to determine your individual priority as where it targets it. So benchmark everything, not just the main things that you're interested in, and then just keep tracking week 1, week 2, month 1, month 2. And don't stop, because this is not a one and done, right? You're changing every day. You need to combat inflammation on a daily basis, especially as you get older. And remember, every day you're older, you've got less redox. So you want to continue to keep yourself at peak performance, and you'll see things layer with time. But how much do you need to recharge those cells? I mentioned that, you know, if you're drinking 4 ounces a day, you're probably about 10 to 15% of people will begin to notice changes that they're looking for within the first week, 50% within the end of the first month, but 90% at that 3-month point, because it takes us 4 months to turn over our blood cells once in the human body. So when you get to that 90% more, you've recharged far more of your cells. And remember, you have got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, if you're impatient to get those cells fully charged, then we say, do our essentials pack, take 6 ounces a day, saturate your cells faster. It's like I think of this as the faster iPhone charger for my phone, right? I can charge my phone up much quicker with a power charger than I can on a slow one. And that's what this is doing. It's charging up your cells quicker. It is a beautiful pack. It comes with a free tube of gel and no shipping charge. So it's a great pack to get you going on a regular basis. Here's some of those clinical studies, right? Renew 28, 28-day study from Germany and over here in the United States will show you 20 to 23% changes in wrinkles and fine lines and texture and elasticity and calming the skin. It is an all-over body skin therapy. It soothes irritated skin, so we'll use it for all sorts of things: cuts, stings, burns, anything that you've got. It's a real good go-to instead of all the other things that we use. This is the radiance. This is examples of 2 months in terms of pores, refining pores, changing wrinkles. This is skin, hair, and nails. You can see thickening hair within just, this is amazing. This is only 19 days. Really quite a phenomenal difference that you can see thickening there. If you have connective tissue challenges, in other words, lax muscles, loose muscles, over flexibility, I've seen a lot of people say that that is beneficial too. This is what we think of as aging, right? Inflammaging, right? Aging from the inside out. And this is the typical picture that we look and feel worse as we get older. But I just want to show you that, in fact, the reality of this particular story is in Rosie here at 84, who progressively gets younger to 91. And I will still say there is literally no other single supplement that I can offer anyone that could take somebody from 84 to 91 and make them look at least 10 years younger. It just doesn't exist. Why? Because none of those things have redox signaling molecules, and that's the reason why. If you're a science buff and want to understand all the implications of all these redox signaling systems for our health, redoxscience.com is a great place. And we have other places that the person who invited you to can refer you to a lot of other information. We're going to talk about the ethos. Why is our mission to better the lives of others and to be a force for good in the world? And, maybe you're one of those people that once you get inspired by anything, even if it was just a good film, that you're going to tell somebody else, and you might find yourself in this category. So we're going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass it over to Lynn, who does a beautiful job in telling us why that's so instrumental in making the ethos of who we are as a company.
I love sharing this, and it's always such a pleasure to get to do that for a few minutes on Tuesdays. Dr. Hoffman talked about that inflection point, that change point with Virtus Norton, and he is the reason that we have these stabilized redox molecules. When he realized, he's a visionary, as you can imagine, he saw the potential when he was exposed to these molecules with that company, and he intuitively knew that it was groundbreaking. So when he acquired the intellectual property and the patents and the technology, to him, it was a business play. This is a guy that was the vice president of international strategy for a $32 billion company, Kraft Foods. He had been doing a lot of consulting for Fortune 50 companies. So to him, it was a business move. He was going to stabilize these molecules and sell it and then go back into retirement. He was 70 at the time. And so he started looking at where he would sell it, what industry he would sell it to. And he was looking at the pharmaceutical industry, thinking that that was the best way to get this out to the public. While he was courting different pharmaceutical companies, he started a focus group of 40 people. These were friends, family members, church members, all who had varying levels of challenges with their health. 6 of those 40 very severe challenges where they had been told basically to get their affairs in order. So in the background, they were taking this product. They had access to as much as they wanted. And in the meantime, one of the pharmaceutical companies was very, very interested, and they flew in their top scientists, their CEO, looked at all the research, and made him a very, very large offer. But that offer had a caveat, and the caveat was that anyone that was on it, including himself, his family, and his focus group, had to come off it. It was basically not going to be made public. And he, at the time, this was like 2 months after everybody had been taking it, those 6 people seemed to be thriving. And so he said to the pharmaceutical company, look, I can't ethically or morally do this because you can't take it away from these people. It's changing their lives. And they basically said, look, if you want the money, you walk away. And I don't know what any of us on this call would do. We're talking tens and tens of millions of dollars, but morally, ethically, he couldn't do it. So he turned down that offer, and that he started this company, and that really started the ethos and the culture of this company. And it became something that was a core value to the company. We see a lot of corporations out there where it's all about the bottom line, it's all about profits. He really wanted to make this about people. He wanted this to be his legacy to the world. And so that everyone around the world would have access to this. He knew that this technology was going to impact three different multi-billion-dollar industries, right? Health and wellness, athletic performance, anti-aging. But he also knew that he couldn't just put this on the shelf. As you saw from Dr. Hoffman's presentation, it just says saline, sodium chloride and water on the bottle. Most of us read labels and people think, oh, I can just mix that up in my kitchen. Most of us don't know what redox is. And even though we've got that redox guarantee on the bottle, if you don't know what redox is, it's going to be meaningless. So he knew that he could not put this in a health food store at Whole Foods. It needed to be something like Tonight. People who have had experiences, people who understand it, people who want to share it with people they care about. And so he chose word of mouth marketing, network marketing. But he knew that that industry didn't have the most stellar reputation. And that was another reason why he really wanted to bring a lot of ethics and integrity to this company and to the industry. And so they're very transparent. They are a company that truly values people and purpose and the principles over profits, over their own egos and the economics. Because they are a privately held company, they're not beholden to shareholders, right? I mean, obviously, every business needs to make money, but they are not there with a lot of corporate greed where it's all about the money. They make decisions based on how is this going to better people's lives? How can we be a force for good in the world? And so I've been with this company now for a little over 10 years, and I have watched that ethos stay just as solid from year one to now. And this is something that runs deeply through both the corporate side and people like myself, Dr. Hoffman, and many people on this call. So if this is something that you're thinking about for yourself, the products, et cetera, I think it's just as important not only to know what redox is and why it's so good for us, but who's behind the curtain, right? And for me, it's really important that you've got a company and people behind the curtain that always put people first, that value us as people and not objects, and that are dedicated to making a difference in my life, your life, and the lives of people that we bring this to. So I always enjoy just getting a few minutes to share the ethos of ASEA because it is so unique. There is a corporate soul in this company, and a heart in all the people that are in this. So Carolyn, thank you. And I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Mute. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Lynn. It is always it is a very moving story, and that being able to make that decision and walk away from all that money. I truly agree with you. I don't think other people would do that. Let me stop recording.